Greetings, everyone. I'm Tony Dunn. I'm the senior pastor here at New Day Christian Fellowship. I'm also the bishop over the New Day Global Network of Churches, and I want to welcome you to another session of Listen Up. You know, one of my passions, my wife Jackie and I, as we begin ministering, we really want to help meet the needs of the people. And so now we have this global pandemic, and of course, with all of our churches in different countries, I've been meeting with those pastors, and they have their government regulations, and there's just been such a significant shift on how we do ministry, but also, too, how we do business. And so one of the things that Jesus said is that in the King James Version of Luke 19, he says, occupy, which means do business until I return. And so many of you, you're in a difficult situation. You've never been here before. I haven't either. But so what I wanted to do, our emphasis here is on the people in the marketplace. And for you guys that are career-minded, you've gone to school, you've gotten your degrees, or maybe you've gotten your certifications and you're working hard and you just don't know what's next with all of this uncertainty, I want to do our part to really bring as much clarity as we can. So today I have my dear friend. Her name is Lela Dennis. She's amazing. She is the Human Resource Director here at New Day. And Lela, just happy to have you. Thank you for being a part.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you for having me.
Hey, you know, you and I have gotten really close. We've done a lot of work together, even outside. You know, I have a nonprofit called Fresh Start, and we've worked with youth transitioning out of foster care and into adulthood, and so you're part of that team with me, and we've traveled to Africa together.
Yes.
And so here at New Day, you've helped us with getting everybody in the right positions. What I like to say is getting them into the right seats on the bus. But before we get into that, let's get to know you a little bit, just your professional background, your educational background. Tell me about Lela.
Sure. Well, starting with my background, I received my undergraduate degree in communications from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. And after that, I received my master's in organizational management with a focus in organizational leadership from Ashford University. And I have several certifications. You were mentioning certifications. I think back to all the certifications, especially as it relates to communications and personality assessments. I just recently received my certification in change management, so through an organization called ProSci. And the reason that I received that certification was because when there is change within organizations, institutions, the change management piece really focuses more on the tactical and the task piece of it or portion of it. The reason that I received my certification is so I could focus more on the people aspect, because they always want to leave that out, and they have what's called an ADKAR model that they follow to make sure that the change management is happening. And I've been in my profession for over 20 years in training development, leadership development, organizational development. Anything with development on the end of it is where my sweet spot is and where I focus. So currently I am working at the University of California, Riverside as the Director of Employee and Organizational Development. I also teach part-time at the University of Phoenix in their business, School of Business, and I really enjoy what I do. Really enjoy what I like to stay busy. And then, of course, being HR Director for New Day. And it's just been the highlight of my career, being able to really do what I like to do and focus on the things that bring value and work with human capital or individuals to make sure that they're where they need to be or on the right seat of the bus.
I thought it would be really great now because, you know, as a nation, well, globally, but specifically as a nation, and more specifically here at New Day, we have a lot of career people. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of, you just be lacking clarity. So that's why I wanted you to come on. So in this season, how have you been coping? How have you made adjustments? But I tell you what, even before we get into that, give me times in your life when you have maybe had to make some adjustments or changes and you saw the handwriting on the wall, or just from your own experience.
Yes. You know, I have been in my career for so long, so I have seen a lot of different things to happen through my career and adjustments that I've had to make, especially in the private sector. My background mostly focuses in corporate America, and if I don't feel that I'm going to progress or move to the next level, that lets me know that I need to position myself or pivot to make it to the next organization. And I have seen that a lot in different careers, not just with myself, but with everyone else. Sometimes they'll get complacent though, and they decide just to stay there and stick it out. If you're career minded and you have your goals and you want to reach them, you have to make those necessary adjustments. And what I have found is being in corporate America, it's a little bit more challenging to move up the ladder, especially being African American and being a woman. And you really have to position yourself and play somewhat of a political game sometimes to make that move. And when I saw that, I decided that it would make more sense for me to look into the public sector. And the position that I have with UC Riverside, it took me 3 times to get that position because of the previous leadership. When leadership changed, I was able to get into that position. And I have to say that being at UCR, it is very diverse. And there are a number of African American leaders within that organization, and that makes me feel good. So the lesson that I took from that, in order to get to where you want to be, you've got to make adjustments, and don't ever get complacent, because that will hold you back and you won't be able to accomplish your dream. I've always dreamed of this job or in this career, and I have it. And the sky's the limit. I still want to continue to move up the ladder, but I want to do that within the public sector.
Well, you said something there about, you said the dream, or I'm thinking vision. Okay, so personal vision is what has kept you motivated too, so you are clear on that.
Yes.
And so you're going to look for organizations or opportunities that are in line with your vision. Now, of course, you've heard me teach that. You're living it. You've taught it. I mean, that's what we're about. But now we have some people, what happens with fear? And so you mentioned like getting complacent. And I think sometimes we can say it nicely, complacency, but sometimes it's just flat out fear. But now you're in a situation where you might have to make a move, you know, because we don't know what's going to come after COVID. So in this season where I know everybody's on Zoom, everybody's working from home, but now what are your thoughts about maybe there's an opportunity right now in this season for the people to begin to make some kind of adjustments or self-assessments? What can you suggest to them? What should they be looking at or doing in this particular season?
I would say depending on their situation, because right now a lot of organizations, because of COVID, they are doing temporary layoffs or furloughs. They're having to do a lot of organizational reductions and budget reductions. Even with UC, we're looking at doing budget reductions as well as temporary layoffs, especially in our auxiliary units, because that's our dining services and our residential services. And if we don't have students on campus, there's no need for staff members or folks to be there. And that's been hard because there are some of the organizational units that are hit hard. What we do from a campus perspective as well as organizations is we provide resources for those that are going through these layoffs, the opportunity to find other careers. We outsource different agencies for them to take a part of and seek those different opportunities. I would say that if you're out there searching or looking for your next opportunity, connect with a lot of the social media sites such as LinkedIn Learning or LinkedIn. LinkedIn Learning is a piece of that, but LinkedIn, Indeed, Monster, all of those are very good resources for individuals to take a look at to see what's out there, increase their networking opportunities, and just making sure that they're doing what they need to do. First of all, finding out if this is truly the career they want, or could this be an opportunity for them to think about another career, to transition or pivot to someplace else. But while they're doing that, just keep on every day, looking and looking, and don't give up.
Okay. You mentioned something earlier before we started about, and I'm thinking about people that maybe really need to make some adjustments within themselves. And then to meet this season, we talk about personality styles, and you mentioned being, in command and control. Me, okay. But then a person like myself may need to become more collaborative. If you can speak to that about how sometimes based on the season and what's going on, we may have to make some modifications, adjustments within ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. I like to keep things simple and have individuals remember things in threes, because we as humans, it's easy for us to remember things in threes. And when it comes to leaders, there are three types of leaders: the command and control leader, the collaborative leader, and the passive leader. There's a time and a place for all leaders to wear that title or to have that role. Command and control, when it works for the positive, it's if something needs to get done, if there is a crisis, that command and control leader needs to be there. Command and control leader does not need to be there if they are very controlling or possessive and every single detail needs to run by them. That's the negative part of a command and control leader. Positive is there's an emergency. I need to direct my people how to get out of the building, or if a child is in a swimming pool and the child may be drowning, we need that command and control leader to say, hey, go get that child, or to jump in. Collaborative leaders are when you just want to have those conversations, you want to remain transparent, you really want to understand what's going on with your team, what's going on with everyone out there. Your passive leaders can work two ways as well. Passive can be if you have a team, they're a high-performing team, everything's seamless, you're just saying, call me when you need me. Whatever needs to be done, I trust you, you can have it, take care of it, but if there's something that you need, just let me know. Or it could be a passive leader on the opposite side, to just not care and just they're in every place else but being focused on their team. So we have to make sure that there's a time and a place for all of those positive leadership qualities to come out, and we're utilizing it in the right way. What we're going through right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, with a lot of the civil unrest, that collaborative leader hat needs to be on and be full force. What I've been doing with my team is making sure that I'm staying connected with them. We're having Zoom huddles and just taking their temperature, finding out how they're doing. At one time I had what would have been maybe a 20-minute huddle, turned out to be a 2-hour conversation. And it was just for them to share and for all of us to open out to see how it's affecting us, how the George Floyd murder affected everyone. I even went so far as to say we're talking a lot about how the families have been affected with what's going on with George Floyd, but I often think about Darnella Frazier, and she's the 17-year-old person that videotaped, that spent almost 8 minutes and 46 seconds plus videotaping. We're talking about a high school student having to witness someone die at the hands of police. And there's not enough recognition that goes out to her for being bold and fearless to do that. And she was almost pepper sprayed by that police officer. And so those are some of the things that we need to think about and just be mindful of that. I would just say, as a leader, making sure that you're staying in touch with your team and having those conversations, and what are going to be those call to actions that you do? Once you have those conversations, what do you do with that? How do you make a difference? If you're not able to go out and protest, what can you do within your institution to let your voice be heard? All we have and all we can own are our voices, so we've got to make sure that they're heard.
I'm sure you've had people, even Caucasians, white people, reach out to you and say, Lela, what must I do? And what are you saying to people like them? Or what happens? What has happened in those situations?
One of the things that you said, Pastor, in one of your messages is that the majority of whites are on our side and are hurting just as much as we are. You have those few that are your white supremacists and your KKK. Those folks that are on our side and that feel how we feel or we have that passion, they're the ones that saying, what can we do? Do we need to have a white caucus? How do we have those conversations with our teams? And what books do we read? Or these are the books that I'm reading. One of my employees is reading a book about anti-racism, and she came to me and said, Lela, what do? I want to give to Black Lives Matter. I want to just be there because I'm hurting. And she's in Washington or Oregon. And I said, after you read the book, just think about 3 top nuggets that you want to share with the team, and we'll talk about it and see what we can do. But have those conversations and let them know that they shouldn't be afraid to have conversations with us and to speak up. She may have to be the catalyst to start something on campus, but you know, we want our voices to be heard. We'll send letters to the chancellor and talk about what our call to actions are and how we're feeling in the hopes that something will get done. But just this is not the time for anyone to be silent.
So now let me ask you this. Let's go back to the leaders. You're talking about leaders and how they should be. So the 3 types. But now, what if you are a subordinate? You have a leader who's amazingly overly passive right now when he should be taking action. How should you as an employee respond? And what do you do in that situation?
It sometimes depends on the comfort level that the employee has with the leader. There are a lot of employees that do have to manage up to their leaders because they just may not know or may not care to know, or they may be so focused on the transactional things that the transformational aspect of it just goes out the window. If that person or that employee recognizes that, I would encourage them to speak up. Let their voice be heard, and it could just be a conversation between that person and the leader, and just to say, I want to be open, I want to be transparent. There are some things that I'd like to share with you if you're open to that. And if the leader is open to that, then start sharing. I'm noticing that you're not reaching out to us to want us to have those conversations to find out how we're doing. You know, as a leader, that's something that you should be in tune with. To take those temperature checks.
I love that. You mentioned coaching up, managing up. It's so funny because one day, Elder Joyce, you know, who was our church administrator, I came in her office and she had a book, How to Manage a Manager or something. I started laughing. I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. But love her dearly. But it is so true. And so now let me ask you, how responsible, might be kind of rhetorical, how responsible are people for their own career trajectory, their own, we got this, okay, none of us saw this coming, okay? Let me ask it this way, Lela. If you could go back, or if we could go back, and you knew this was gonna happen, you know, this whole COVID thing, this shutdown, what would you have done differently? And I'm asking because maybe, just maybe, we can begin to employ some of that now, for we don't know what next year is gonna look like.
Dunn, well, gosh, that's so interesting, because I'm not sure what I would have done differently, not ever being in this type of situation. What I say is, and you say it all the time, nothing catches God by surprise. So if anything, I would want to reflect more on what's happening and how my team would handle certain crises. Because you never know. We being in human resources, and we have all kinds of people coming in and out of our doors. I have an employee that, because of a past position she was in, has a bit of PTSD because there was a shooting at her old organization. And we have a panic button in human resources, but because of that past experience, she will just freeze if something were to happen. And we have to make sure in human resources that we're providing safety for her. And so now we are implementing a buzzer to go on the door, cameras being installed so that she could feel safe. But if I had to just maybe focus on what I would do differently, uh, I would more than likely just make sure that my team has that psychological safety aspect and that they are comfortable with having conversations with me and not want to hold anything back. And yeah, just focus on the team aspect of it.
One of the things I enjoy about me and you and our relationship is that I learn so much from you. I have watched you in different settings and how you adjust yourself to meet the needs of whatever's being demanded there. And just like a second ago, I asked you what would you do differently, and it went back to the team part because you know you're so people focused. Now, in my mind, when I asked that question, I was thinking because I'm a D, you know, I'm a driver. I was thinking individualistically, and so it's so cool. I love working with you and Ebony and Kathy. I think we're such a dynamic group, and again, I'm always learning. As I'm with you guys, even with myself. Um, One of the things I think I would do differently as a pastor, even though I asked that question and I was thinking from an individual perspective, would make sure that the team is stronger. Even because that is my focus now is development. That's why we hang out. That's why we're so tight. I want people to grow and develop and become really self-aware and increasing their emotional intelligence. And that's just going to make you perform at an optimal level. You'll get that level of peace that you didn't have before. The things that used to bother you, you'll understand where you're wounded, and you'll just see clearer. I think too that as we really begin to work on ourselves, because we don't know what's coming up, and God still gave us a command. He said, "Be fruitful and to multiply." You guys remember the parable of the talents? He gave one 5, another one 2, another one 1. And beginning Matthew 25, verse 14. And the guy with 5 turned his into 10. The one with 2 turned his into 4. The guy that had 1 didn't do anything with it. And the Lord was very displeased with him. And I want the Lord to be very pleased with me, with you, and with all of us. So I want us to make sure that we're doing all that we can to be fruitful, even in this season that's difficult right now and it's uncertain. One last thing, and then I want you to have closing comments. Deacon Don Emerson really blessed me. So, when we had we had the economic slowdown a few years back, he got laid off as an architect. And what he did, he went back and got his certification. And so then when the economy shifted, actually he was able to do some side stuff, a side hustle. And then now he's really leveraged that. And when the economy picked back up, and it's really helped him there. So in this season, everyone, still do your best to build, to grow, and prepare for when we come out, because we will come out. Lela, I want to thank you for coming on, being a part of this. So what closing comments do you have for everyone?
I would just say, and just even before I give my closing comments, you brought something to mind as you were speaking to make me think about, I also have my own consulting company, so as an independent contractor, and one of the pivots that I made out of corporate was to rebirth my consulting company. I've had my consulting company since 2007, and if something isn't going right, I have my consulting company to fall back on and go out and get work. And that is exactly what happened about a year ago. In June last year, I left corporate America, rebirthed my consulting company, did some consulting, connected with a great person or organization in San Diego that allowed me to do a lot of contracting work until I found exactly what I wanted. So I stayed with my company, my consulting company, from June all the way until December, but it took that long in order for me to find my UCR position. So I'm not saying go out and be a gypsy or a joker, a joker of all?
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, master of none. Have a focus, but even if you want to call it a side hustle, but just make sure you've got something going for you. Because of COVID, having your own consulting company or being an independent contractor, you're able to apply for a lot of the SBA, Small Business Administration, disaster loans that are out there. Had I not had my own company, I wouldn't have been able to do those things. So you have to really think smart about how you diversify your income. So I would say make sure you do that. And I'd say for closing comments, stay positive, stay in the Word, pray, get involved with life groups or Bible studies. Find someone that you can lean on and have conversations with. Pay attention to things that are going out there. Not that you have to believe everything that's out there, but just be mindful and be aware. Just that awareness factor is so key right now. When Governor Newsom comes on, pay attention to what he's saying, because it will all have a domino effect on how we choose to live our lives and conduct ourselves. If you don't feel comfortable going out, stay in. The word that I got from God was be still. Just stay still. We're thinking 2020, that's the year of vision. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, Lord, what vision? Because I'm thinking 2020 vision, that's a good thing, but now you're having me think about what vision did you want us to see? This happened back in the biblical days with leprosy, and they had to be quarantined. So what are you saying? So I'm in the process of figuring out, God, what does this mean to me in my life?
Amen. Amen. Well, family, thank you for tuning in to Listen Up. Again, I want to thank Lela for being a part of this, and just not only this show here, but being a part of the New Day family. God bless you. Jack and I love you, and I'll see you next time.